cell is the basic structure and function of life. We look at the scientists that contribute to the cell theory, right from Robert Hooke in 1665, Felix Dejani in 1835, Robert Hooke discovered cell. Felix Dejani discovered the protoplasm. Matthias Klein discovered the, that all plants are made up of cells. Theodor Schwann discovered that all animals are made up of cells. Rudolf von Virchow proposed a theory that new cells arise from pre-existing cells. So today we'll be looking at the form by which cells can exist. So I repeat again, we'll be looking at the form by which cells can exist. There are many forms by which cell can exist. So I'm talking about forms by which cell can exist. That is, these cells that we're talking about, how can we see it in many ways? How can we see it in different ways? Number one, cell can be seen as independent or single and free living organism. How can we see it as well? Cell can also be seen as a colony. They could be seen as a filament. And number four, they could be seen as a part of a living organism. Now, what do we mean by this? This is very, very simple. We don't know. Because it's trying to tell us that what are the different ways by which a living cell could survive? What are the different ways by which we can see cell? We can see cell being in an independent form, that is, being alone. We can see cell being alone or being single or being free. Any organism that has this type of cell, they are called unicellular organism. And a good example of unicellular organism, they are the protists. And all the protists, they have a single cell. That's the reason why they are called unicellular organism. So it means that cell could survive as a one. That is, is independent. It does not depend on anything. It does not depend on anyone. It could survive on its own. Look at Euglena as an example. Euglena it exists as an independent or a single and free living. Euglena does not depend on anything. It has both plant and animal characteristics. It can behave as a plant and it can behave as an animal. So, another example, most all the protists happens to be independent or single and free living organism. We have Euglena, we have Amoeba, we have Chlamydomonas, we have Paramecium, we have Diatoms, we have Chlorella. All these, they are good example of organisms that undergo independence. Now, the next form by which cell can exist is as colony. If you want to write this, feel free to pause the video and write it down. Independent or single and free living organism, as a colony, filament, as a part of the living organism. I've explained this. It means that this is when cell exists on its own, when it is single and free. This is a WAEC past question. So never can tell, you may be asked. WAEC repeat past question. So the next one is as a colony. What does it mean to be as a colony? Cell exists as a form of aggregate of independent cell. Independent cell in form of colony is comprised of different cells working together to achieve a common goal. In a colony is when different cells fuse together to form a one. Each cell functions exactly how it ought to be, but however, each cells are capable of being on its own. For example, the cells that are found at the leg region, they function in terms of movement. Those that are found at the side region function in terms of vision. Those that are found in terms of in brain region, they helps in meditation and reason. So, as a colony, colony are being formed by the by the compression or combination of many cells. So, example of organism that falls under the category of colony, we have um, we have Pandorina, we have Eldorina, we have Volvox. Volvox, Pandorina, and Endorina, they fall under the colony as a group. The next one is to talk about cell living as a filament. That's the next one. Cell as a filament. Cell as a filament. When we're talking about filament, something like a feel like a tube. Good example is Spirogyra cell. Is prenoid. This is spiral chloroplast. This is cell wall accompanied by the mucilage. So and so on and so forth. So this is a good example of a filament. An example of organism that exhibit this. In filament, they are joined end to end to form a linear aggregate form. You can see this is another cell. It's just because I don't want to draw it. So if I draw it, it will look like this one. So they are joined end to end to form a linear to form aggregate linear form. So in filament, they are joined end to end, while in colony, they are fused together to form a mass. While in filament, they are joined in end to end form. Example of organism that can exist as a filament is Spirogyra. Spirogyra can exist as a filament. We have Spirogyra, we have Zygnema, Zygnema, Anabena, Anabina, and so on. So those are the organisms that exist as a filament. So as a student, you are meant to know each forms by which living cell exists and each example each. For example, in 2014, the same question is also asked in 2014, form by which cell lives and one example each. So that's it. In filament, they are joined together to form a linear form aggregate, while in colony, they combine together to form a mass. So the next thing is to talk about cell as a part of a living organism. Cell does not just stop at being one. It does not just stop about being composed together or compressed together to form a colony. It does not just stop at being joined ends to ends to form a filament. It goes a long way to be part of living organism itself. An example is sheep cell. Example of this is sheep cell. Another example is onion cell, and so on and so forth. Those are the examples that falls under this. So onion cell develop to form tissues and so on and so forth. So that's example of cell being a part of a living organism. So if you're asked that what are the range or ways by which or forms by which cell can exist, we have one. The first one happens to be as in as independent or free, as independent or single and free living organism. The second one as a colony, as a filament, and the third one happens to be as part of a living organism.